Ambassador Williams agreed to undertake the chairmanship of the Commission on Minorities only after he was assured total cooperation from the Office of Court Administration, but OCA was less than cooperative. One of the original members, Justice Sam Green of Buffalo, reveals the OCA stonewalling and how it came to an end. I'm John Carr, and what you're about to hear is a small portion of an oral history interview with Justice Green.
I received a call from Judge Watler. Judge Watler and I had met him a couple of times, but then we became friends. I ran into him over in Europe, in London, in fact, where they had a joint American Bar Association and London Bar Association that year. And him and I spent some time together talking, and, we had some hours together because we had some leisurely time and got to know each other a little bit. So then I received a call from him telling me that he was planning on setting up a commission to study the treatment of minorities in the courts. And he wanted to know if I would be interested in serving on it. And I was hesitant about it and told him I wasn't really interested in, one of these feel-good type committees or commissions. But if they were really concerned about doing something, I certainly would be interested. He assured me that it was going to be a serious commission. And he told me at that time that he says, in fact, the person that I've chosen that would head this up is a very outstanding gentleman by the name of Franklin Williams. Have you ever heard of him? I said, no, I have not. And he gave me some of his background about he had been the former ambassador to Ghana, and told me, other things. And he says, you'll get a chance to meet him, and I'm sure you'll be impressed. And so, we had this meeting in New York City. I met Franklin Williams, and I was very, very impressed.
What impressed you about Franklin Williams?
Well, I can really say at the time I met Franklin Williams, he was the most impressive black man I had ever met or had ever had any dealings with. And, I had met quite a few. And there was just something about the guy. He had class, style, very, very, very bright, intelligent, and down to earth at the same time. So he seemed to have, just had it all.
So the commission gets underway, and then how did it get started? What were your initial goals or thoughts?
Well, first, maybe what I should say is I was even more impressed with when talking to Judge Watler is that when he told me that the only way that he was able to get Franklin Williams to head up the commission was that Franklin Williams would raise the money himself, and that it would not be paid for through OCA, because he would only do it, were it a completely independent group that was not going to be overseen by OCA or dictated to by OCA, where they would control the purse strings and could pull the money back whenever and things. So he had agreed himself to raise $1 million to support this commission. And that in and of itself was very impressive in those days. And he did do that. He did raise the money himself from philanthropic organizations and groups. But that was the kind of power that he had.
So he was very insistent that this commission be independent.
Oh, that was the only way he would accept, the position, is that it was independent and that he would raise the money for the funding.
Okay. So then you get started, and give us a little bit of the history there. So you get started, you probably have a organizational meeting or something, and then where does it go?
Yes, they chose a number of people, mostly judges there were judges in New York City. I think we had one from Rochester. There were a number of people that were not judges also on the commission. But what happened is the Franklin Williams had chosen the executive director to run the commission, and that was the key. And that was Edna Handy, I believe it was. And she was just terrific. I mean, she knew what the goals of the commission were, and she was able to put together her staff. And she really worked more closely with Franklin Williams. He would come to the meetings and he would give an overview or things like this, but she really carried the organization. And we got started, with the promise from Judge Watler that we were going to get total cooperation, from the court system, the OCA, and that he wanted a thorough investigation himself. In fact, I can remember Judge Watler, when he first spoke to us at our first meeting, saying to someone, can you imagine walking into the courtroom and there's no one else in that courtroom that looks like you, and you're being charged with a crime? How do you feel? What type of justice do you think that you're going to get? That was very, I thought powerful for him to have made that strong statement when he set this program up. And he said that he also had taken some criticism from others to say, you're opening up a wound here. What are you going to do? And so I give Judge Watler lots of credit for what he did. He had he was dedicated, and he backed us up 100%.
It sounds like he was very sincere about this. What got Wackler interested in this? Did somebody come to him? Were there groups or anything like that? Or was it his own observations? Do you know?
No, what got Judge Watler interested in this, there was a group of black judges in New York City. Some of them were Supreme Court judges, some were criminal court judges, civil court judges. I guess they had an association or group there. And they were concerned about some of the treatments that even the judges were getting. Not only, the fact that they were not seeing enough minorities hired and things of this sort. And they evidently approached Judge Watler, either through, I don't know if it was written or if they personally approached him. But evidently that started him to thinking, and that's when he decided then maybe he needed to do something. And this commission came about. And as I said, that's when those around him were saying, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And he says, "Yes, I'm going to do it." And he promised us also that they would fully cooperate and that he was going to accept our recommendations and make sure that they, go into place. So he was dedicated and sincere along. So we were really fortunate to have Judge Watler, Judge Williams, and then Edna Handy. They were just three, quality people, sincere, wanting to see something done. And that was the genesis of it.
So then I think you went on kind of a fact-finding tour and held a whole lot of hearings all over the state. And my understanding is you got an earful. Is that accurate?
Oh yes. We held hearings, all over. People came, and told us what the problems were. But, we mostly knew what they were anyway, The question is, and how do we fix it? How do we do something about it? So after, we gathered all the information, it wasn't easy getting information because the head of the courts, the administrative judge, head of OCA, wasn't fully cooperative. Crossan, I guess he didn't really, we would ask and seek information, and he would stonewall us and wouldn't give us the statistics and the things that we needed. So what they would usually do is when we would set up a meeting with them at OCA, they wanted to make sure that I would be there because some of the regular judges were a little nervous. You know, OCA had direct control over them. My being on the appellate court, they didn't have that kind of control over me. You know, we had our own bailiwick that we ran. So I could, speak my mind and let them know what. So I had many run-in with Crossan to, in fact, I let him know that he didn't work for IBM, that he worked for the state of New York. So we had some pretty heated discussions. That's when Jonathan Lippman came in. Then Jonathan was the fourth important person here because he saw what was going on, and some of us were threatening to quit this commission because of the stonewalling OCA was doing. And Jonathan stepped in and says, I'll get that for you. I'll get the information. So Jonathan kind of took it on himself. He was the deputy administrator. And from that time on, the information started to flow. And we were able to go ahead and then eventually, put together our final report.
Why do you think Crossan was stonewalling? I mean, his boss, Walker, wanted him to do this, and he was an impediment?
Well, the reasons that Crossan was stonewalling is none of us could understand, because I even said to him that either, Judge Watler is telling us one thing and telling you something else, or, something's going on here, because, I'm at the point where I'm willing to tell Judge Watler he can take this commission and stick it. So, because he tells us we're supposed to be able to get this information, and here you are the one that's supposed to be giving it to us, and you're stonewalling. So it was a problem with him, but it was more or less, I think, his personality, the idea that he didn't want someone, looking over his shoulders or something to that effect. Because, as I said, Jonathan, his deputy, who actually, really kind of took over and started to cooperate with us, was able to get us all the information we needed. We weren't asking for anything that's confidential or anything like that. This is public records, So, but it was really Crossan's personality, I think.